Welcome back to Turning the Page. I'm host Donnie Morse, and we have with us today Joy Bischoff, who has written her new book, 2012, Nibley's Ancient New Year Rite. And before we went to break, we were talking about the new year, again, January 1st, and how important that was. And when we came back, we want to talk specifically now about 2012 and what the world teaches or thinks about 2012 and, the apocalypse and those things. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Sure. Well, first of all, the Mayans get really upset when everyone says they're predicting the end of the world, because they're certainly not. They understand that it's the end of a cycle. It's cyclical in nature. But the world does. Most of the people think that the claims are made that this is the end of all things, and it certainly isn't. In fact, there are a lot of scientific studies, ice core samples, core from beneath seabeds, things that will show the cyclical nature of our cataclysmic events that happen upon the earth.
Oh, really?
Yes, and at times it brings about the destruction of things upon the earth, sometimes complete destruction. But
is that what Nibley thinks is going to happen next 2,600 years?
Actually, Nibley says there's basically been made a way for our escape, okay?
Oh.
And he explains about the importance of temples and temples dotting the earth at this time. And let me share just a little bit out of the book that'll kind of help with this idea.
Okay. Is this a quote from Hugh Nibley, or is this...
Yes, quotes from Hugh Nibley, and my talking about it a little bit. Now, Temple and Cosmos is a very important book by Hugh Nibley. It's my second favorite. His last one, Eternal Round, is my favorite. But Temple and Cosmos, in the first chapter, it's a very important concept that he shares from his research. He explains that in the Americas, after the visit of the Savior, order was preserved by great mental effort. He says it takes tremendous effort mentally to preserve order and not move into chaos. When spiritual focus wavers, things begin to decay. He says, he gives the process of the decay. This is interesting. The first to decay is faith, then knowledge, followed by morality. Society crumbles, and when the cup of wickedness is full, the earth itself becomes affected, and chaos ensues.
So back to the world teaches that the apocalypse is going to be this major destruction. Is that going to happen in 2012? What's the timing on that?
Oh, 2012. It's fascinating, this pattern. Let me give you some examples and share some thoughts about that. The end of the world is not right away, but it's a process. There's a series of events that have to take place. Now, what apocalypse actually means in Greek is an unveiling, a revealing. And so I want to talk about that concept because my book shares the idea of this cloud of protection, and that 2012 is the time to unite and come together in this Zion principle of unity to create this cloud of protection. And there are many examples of that in the scriptures and also in science. A really fascinating one is black hole in the center of the galaxy. You get an accretion disk, this matter that comes around the black hole, and it orbits around, creating tremendous pressure and energy until it comes to the point where there's so much pressure, according to some Harvard astronomers, that pressure presses on that black hole until a quasar is released. And you can see in facsimile too, in that hypocephalus above Amun, is a depiction of this quasar in its figure 2, right above figure 1, in this matte scepter of light. And it's the joining of this concept of Urim and Thummim that Nibley talks about in When Eternal Round, his last book. And this joining that creates this light, and this light is electromagnetic radiation. And Nibley has taught that that radiation that comes from the center of the galaxy, from this light, is necessary for all life on Earth. It really understands more of it, opens up an understanding more of the book of Revelation, and even symbolism in the scriptures, like forts of protection. And in the last chapter I explained, when I was a little child, I knew there was something more to building forts of protection when the enemy comes. I knew that there's so much time spent on that by Alma wasn't just about military procedure. And the last chapter explains just why that fort is so important, and it helps us to understand the pattern that Nibley identified.
I see. So 2012, we have lots of prophecy. There's something special going to happen.
Very special.
Can you tell us what that is exactly?
Well, much to my surprise, when I discovered what the Mayans said about 2012 and its real purpose, I realized that there was a lot more to it than I had previously known. They say that this is the time that the political throne of Quetzalcoatl will be established on the earth. There will be a return of Quetzalcoatl, they say, not necessarily for the world to see. It's the throne of Quetzalcoatl that they say returns at 2012, and they taught this was a political event.
2012, they teach that it was a major political event.
Major political event.
Oh, really?
Indeed.
And you explain that well in the book for us?
Chapter 2 tells all about that and explains the tie-in that I discovered with the throne of David.
Oh, really? Well, that's exciting. Now, Joy, one of the things you do is you do some seminars.
Right.
Tell us a little bit about that.
All right. Well, I have been encouraged by, business people to charge for the seminars. And I did that once. I was a little uncomfortable. This is something I want to get out to people. So I actually do free seminars. And so anyone can have them. Book clubs, ladies groups, if you just want to have people invite to your home. As long as we have at least 20 people, I will come and I will do a free PowerPoint. And PowerPoints are really powerful because they have the pictures that can simplify these concepts. Because to be honest, although I tried to simplify this book so people can understand Nibley's writings, some of the feedback that I get is that all of it isn't simple. Some things I need to leave a little bit vague because they're very sacred, and sometimes people need to connect those dots themselves. So I would love to come and do seminars in people's homes or wherever they want me to come and give that free PowerPoint. Okay.
Well, briefly tell people how they can get hold of you if they'd like you to come do a seminar.
All right. Joy Bischoff, my number is 801-857-1542. Or you can get me on my email, probably my regular one. That way it won't go to junk mail. royjoy84@yahoo.com. And this is something that I would love to do.
We will have Joy's book here, 2012, Nibley's Ancient New Year Rite, here at Confetti Antiques and Books. For those who'd like to pick it up, a copy. $16.99. Great, great book. Opened up all kinds of ideas for me, and I'm sure the audience as well. Joy, is there any last things you'd like to add today?
Actually, I've been thinking the last few days about interviewing here and being able to talk to you. And it reminded me of a time when we were on our farm down in southern Nevada just a few years ago. One night when kids had all left the nest, I was alone. My husband was gone most of the time working, all alone on the farm. I remember taking a walk with my golden retriever and going through the mesquite trees and coming out and watching the sunset. And I just remember starting to cry because I had to scrape my jaw off the ground a few times that day in my research. And I just said to my beautiful dog, will I ever get to share this with anyone? So I want to thank you, Donnie, for giving me this opportunity to share these things. It means the world to me. Thank you.
Joy, thanks for being here. Thank you for joining us here at Turning the Page. I'm host Donnie Morse, and we had Joy Bischoff with us today. Thanks again. Joy, thanks for being here.
Thank you, Donnie.
Joy Bischoff will be here at Confetti Antiques and Books Saturday, October 13th from noon to 2, and also at the BYU Bookstore October 12th from noon to 2 to sign copies of her new book, 2012, Nibley's Ancient New Year Rite. Here at Confetti Antiques and Books October 13th from noon to 2, and at the BYU Bookstore October 12th from noon to 2 as well.